character issue.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think regardless of whatever setting you're in, I think that a lot of young professionals need to understand now, yeah, you got this opportunity and you got the door open for you, right? And let's take Sonia or you or anybody as an example. What's going to keep you all in that door? It's the fact that you're just going to outwork the other person. I'm just going to outwork you. I'm smarter than you. I'm going to work harder than you. I'm going to do everything I can to show that I belong here. And I think that's a work ethic that needs to be instilled, across the board, male or female.
Definitely. For me, when I was a student trainer in high school, Charlotte was always a really good role model for me. And when I went to Baylor, there was no really treatment differently for, you're not going to be as good because you're a female or any of those kind of things. So I had a little bit of confidence. Well, I had confidence when I came out. When I started at Klein, I don't know if I necessarily got it because I was female, them thinking I wasn't as good, or the fact that I was 23 years old working at a high school. And, there was a little bit of both, but I could have either let those negatives, feelings that I got from people affect me and bring me down, or I decided to use it as like a little bit of fire under my butt. And, but it's like Don says, you do feel a sense that you have to work harder than everybody else to prove yourself. It's like you have to fight harder to prove yourself. You have to work harder to prove yourself. And so that's what I did. And I worked my butt off to get respect from everybody, no matter what I did. And I tried to make sure that all of my students, because we have 45 student trainers in our program, and only 2 are male. So I tried to make sure that all the young girls in my program know that you're going to work just as hard, that you're going to, put forth as much effort as everybody else. You're not going to pull this whole, oh, I can't do it, I'm a girl, this kind of thing. Like, if you do that, you're going to take us backwards. So Don't do that.
Yeah, I remember Rhonda, who is, and I don't know if she's listening, she's still in California, but Rhonda was maybe 5 feet tall, soaking wet with rocks in her pants, 110 pounds at best. And, she had a really high voice, and she really set the tone for what our clinical experience was going to be. You were going to act a certain way. You were going to dress a certain way. For men, she would do something called the credit card test. If she took a credit card out and ran it up your face and hurt any stubble, you were shaving. For women, there were a certain way that you were going to act and dress. And the reason why was something that you just brought up, right? She was the first female head athletic trainer in that position. And she had worked really hard to get to that point. And she wasn't going to let anybody else, get in her way. And she wanted to set an example for everybody, but especially the females. So the question I have for, I think, the 3 of you is, all of you just brought up a common theme, right? And the common theme was, I was determined to work harder than everybody else because I felt like I had something to prove. So what is it that you felt like you had to prove? That's my question, right? So Sonia and Dawn, right? You both have addressed it from a college and a professional level. You've addressed it from a high school level, but you've all brought up the same kind of theme. I was determined to work harder than everybody else. Can you describe what that was that you're trying to prove?
I would say, for me, I'm a very competitive person, so it doesn't matter who is next to me or who's against, starting from being a student in athletic training classes to the clinical experiences. Like I just always had a drive to be the best. Like it's gonna, I don't know if that's gonna come across sounding, the wrong way, but it's not meant to. It's just my competitive drive always instilled me to work my butt off and, do the best that I could do. But in the end, it's because you're trying to be the best. And whether you're the best female or the best man, I think that's gender neutral. We were talking about work ethic. If you want to be the best, you have to work harder than everybody, not just work harder than the males or work harder than, so I think to me, it's competitive drive. Like I was always just trying to do the best I could. And when we're talking about work ethic, not only is it work ethic that really helps kind of separate yourself, but the other big thing is knowledge. And you already addressed that. Knowledge is power. Like you really prove yourself when you're knowledgeable about our profession, and you know how to treat injuries effectively and properly. And but yeah, I agree with what she was saying about work ethic, but I also think knowledge is just right up there along with it.
And Sonia, let me ask you a question. So when you first started in the athletic training profession, you went to Wisconsin, Madison, yeah?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So when you first started, did you know that you wanted to stay in football, or were you open to all these other experiences and gravitated towards football? What was your thought process in the beginning?
I was definitely open to working in kind of any athletic training environment as a student. And I did find that the football rotation was my favorite out of all of them. But it's
Why?
I kind of already addressed this, but because of the large volume of injuries, and there's always something going on, there's something doing, and I enjoy the sport of football. It's just a game I enjoy. So you put in tons and tons of hours, but if you're enjoying the environment you're in, it's not a big deal. So I loved working hard. I loved like doing practice setup. Like, you shouldn't really enjoy doing that, but I really enjoyed like going out and getting my hands dirty and just doing that sort of stuff. So, but I found that after I continued to get more football experiences, like, I didn't choose my rotation at UNC. That's just what I was given. And so I found that gaining the football experience kind of convinced me that I'm like, well, maybe I should work in this environment because I enjoy it so much and I'm doing a good job in it. So that's kind of when it was in grad school, that was basically when I had the Steelers internship, is when I decided that was my goal, to work in the NFL.
Dawn?
I would agree with her and just say that, being a former athlete and just my work ethic, I'm competitive. Just I agree with everything she said. It's just more of a personal thing that I want to be the best I can at all times. And I've never really dealt with anyone that's personally said you're not good enough because you're a female or anything. I think that, like I said, it's never been a question, because I feel pretty equal to them most of the time, because I'm working just as hard or harder than they are competitively. And, just that competitiveness inside. It's more of that thing.
Christina?
Well, for me, it's slightly different because, like I said, I started when I was 23. I probably looked like I was 17. So I always had the problem, and it's around that time, there's a lot of stuff in the news with teachers and students and all that kind of stuff. So I had to work really hard just to prove that I was there to do a job, and that I could do my job and be professional, and that there was no ulterior motive or, something bad behind it. I worked really hard to show that I could be a cute young female and still be professional. Mm-hmm. And I had to prove that to a lot of people, unfortunately. They always had eyes on me, like they were waiting for me to screw up.
So this is something that when I was getting my master's degree, I wrote my master's thesis on the athletic trainer's ability, their clinical knowledge, in the intervention of disordered eating. And how I got to that point was I was assigned to a female team. And I was the only male that was a part of it was a softball team. And I started to notice some of these sociological discrepancies, right? One, that female athlete was supposed to go on the field and be a competitor and be the quote, the beast, and crush the ball and all those other things. And when the female athlete came off, they were supposed to magically go in the locker room and they come out and look like a model. Whereas the male athlete, we didn't have those same societal pressures. The male athlete can walk in and look like, a Neanderthal, go play the game, and come out and look like a Neanderthal. And nobody said a thing about it. The same thing about, what you just brought up, right? That you were a female athletic trainer at a high school and everybody's got eyes on you. But I guarantee you, if you were a male going into nobody would say anything. Right? We see this now as far as, some other societal issues. To have a male coach be the head coach of a female team, nobody blinks an eye at. But to have a female coach be a coach of a male team, whoa, wait a minute. Look what happened in the NFL, right? You have your first female referee. This made the news. I guarantee you she is just as good or qualified as a referee as anybody of her male counterparts. So the question I have for the three of you is, and Sonia, you may have already addressed it, but I'm going to ask it again. The question I have for you is, there are some unwritten societal pressures that are on, female clinicians. Tell me some of the strategies that you all use to address some of these societal pressures, because whether they overtly exist or not, they're there. So tell me some of the things that you use that, some of the nuggets that you all can pass along to some of my female students and those that want to get in the profession, things that you've learned along the way. Sonia, I'll start with you.
I think that a lot of the tools that I kind of use to combat some of these societal misconceptions, I'll call them, is just really focusing on just really understanding that I can only control what I can control. I can't control what they think of me, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to put my head down and do my job the way I should do my job. So I think just kind of being good at tuning out some of those, outside distractions is just a helpful tool just to be sure and confident in yourself that you are a good clinician and you are good at what you do. Just having that confidence about you and not worrying what people are thinking or saying or whatever. I think the other big thing that goes a long way is just your overall professionalism, how you dress, how you look. For me, it's more by choice because I don't like to wear a lot of makeup or, I like to wear athletic clothes, so it's not a big deal. But like when you're in a football environment, like you don't want to stick out, because if you stick out, you're going to be a target. It's simple as that. So I like to blend in, be behind the scenes, and just do my job. And then overall, just professionalism in terms of not only how you look, but just how you act with people. I don't know how to kind of go into that in as much detail, but there's definitely like people know if you're flirting with them or if you're just talking to them. If conversations go a certain direction, I always steer it the other way and bring it back to the injury. Like, okay, so is this bothering you? Like just being good about kind of handling certain conversations. So those are my big things, is professionalism, not really trying to focus on what other people are thinking.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I focus a lot, the age group that I deal with on a daily basis, 18 to 22, you have to be really careful with that age group, but you also want to be their mentor. And that's a really big part of my life, is I want to help guide these kids, in the right direction, but that's also being professional at the same time. So a lot of times, you want to be friendly with these athletes, the female, the male, both, and joke around with them. But sometimes it does go to another level where, they start joking around and it gets a little unprofessional, and you have to learn how to take that with a grain of salt real quick and change it and say, hey, I'd appreciate it if you didn't say anything about, that today, or, that, and let's go ahead and focus on your injury, just like she was saying, stuff like that. So I think it's the way you handle it. And if you act like you're uncomfortable, then they're going to feed off of that and almost probably do it more towards you. Hey, you want to go to dinner and go to the Red Lobster tonight? I've had that talk a couple of times at football practice,
Jeez,
so it's
big
just
spender.
like, yeah, big spender at Red Lobster. So
Red Lobster.
And this is not an advertisement. This is not a, but, and you have to just, hey, joke around with them back and say, I'm busy tonight. Maybe, you should pick on somebody your own age or something like that. You just have to spin it where they're not uncomfortable, but they understand that it's not the right area to address you. But I try to become a mentor to them and still want them to be, I still want to be approachable for them. But once it gets unprofessional, you have to reroute it really quick. So.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same way in high school.
Yeah.
I think I get it a little bit worse. I've got the 14 to 18-year-olds.
Sorry, my son's 14, so I understand.
Which, these kids here know what I'm talking about. It's a different kind of energy and mentality around here. But in my training room, our training room, me and my partner, we have our rules. And our big thing is to not let anybody skimp or get by with not following the rules. And one of the biggest ones is showing respect, whether it's respect to me, whether it's respect to the other student trainers. You're going to show respect. If you're disrespectful, I'm going to call you out on it. Mm-hmm. I do have the boys that, because I do like to look cute. Now, when I'm at work, obviously I'm, dressed professionally, but if it's a banquet or something, I like to put on some nice heels and, a nice dress and whatnot. And everyone would be like, oh my gosh, you look like a girl. Yes, it happens. But and they'll say something and I'll take it politely and not, some boys will take it, go to inappropriate places, and I'll be like, that's a little inappropriate, and I will call them out.
Yep.
Now my reputation has kind of preceded me. I have siblings of older, that have come through, and they know exactly what I'm like. They know exactly what they're going to get from me. If you come in for an injury, we're going to have a talk about that. And that's what the discussion is going to be about. I'm going to be personable, but I'm going to be professional as far as what we're doing. And when I work with my students, I try to bring them in when I'm going over something.